Okay, I am going to start our presentation this evening. I wanted to start off with an absolutely huge welcome to everyone joining us today at our Everyday Clinical Careers event at Everyday Independence. A bit of background on myself. My name is Brianna Grigg. I am an occupational therapist. And fun fact, I actually started at Everyday Independence in 2015 as a new graduate occupational therapist. I have had the absolute privilege of working in many different roles across the last 9 years. So that includes being an occupational therapist working with children and families. I have worked in the positive behaviour support space, housing and support needs assessments, and I've also worked in a team leader role, regional lead and state lead role, and now have the amazing role of being our habit coach program lead at Everyday Independence. So I really hope I can be an example of the many different career pathways at Everyday Independence, and show you that you can also work between those different roles and have lots of opportunities at EI. So I wanted to start off today with acknowledgement of country. So we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which our sites are held. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as the first people of Australia. So our why, you will see this today also on my background. This is how we start all meetings at Everyday Independence, a reminder of our purpose and our why, and really reminding us all why we are here, why we come to work. So we strive every day to lead and support individuals, their families, communities, and our nation to become a global leader for inclusion. And this is something we are really, really passionate about. Our values. So you'll see 5 game-changing values up on our screen today. So our values are something we do every day at Everyday Independence, and we all live and breathe our values. We do this by working in a social model of disability, and this is really led by our values. Our values are very much aligned with the social model, and they really speak to all stakeholders in the Everyday team and within our Everyday Independence brand. So whether you are a participant using our services, whether you are an employee working with us, these are values that we all align to, and work really hard to achieve by every day. So when we look at our first one, change the game. This is something we aspire to do every day. We want to level up. We want to change the game for people living with a disability and truly support them to absolutely maximise their potential. We want to inspire with belief. So we want to really imagine and inspire for people. What is possible for people? How do we inspire people to be their very best every day? And then in turn, support those around them. We want to champion the person. So that is championing the participants that we support, but also championing you or championing our valuable employees at Everyday Independence. Because without you and without our participants, we can't come to work. And that's really why we're so passionate. We want to simplify and go. So this is something we're really striving for at the moment, simplifying our tech and simplifying things to make it easier for our participants to receive and access our services, and also simplifying and going with our tools for our employees to make them be able to come to work, reduce that noise, and truly make the most impact that they can. And then one team with purpose. This is truly where the magic happens. So being able to really work together, make sure everyone has the tools they need, the team in, whether it's a habit coach, a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, our team leaders, our incredible administration support, or a lot of our central support teams, we all really work together to ensure the best outcomes for our participants. So the everyday way. I would love to start off today by sharing a story that I feel really encompasses the everyday way. So one of my favourite stories since I've worked at Everyday Independence is actually from a colleague of mine who is an occupational therapist. So she was referred a couple of years ago to go and support a participant, and the referral actually came in for an assistive technology request, and this was to support a young man at the time to receive a wheelchair. So that's it. Come out, support this man to get a wheelchair, and that will make a true impact in this man's life. Interestingly, when this occupational therapist went out and supported this participant, they went in the shop, got in his wheelchair and walked down to the local shops, and actually realized that the wheelchair was perfectly fine. What was preventing this young gentleman from getting to the shops was actually a massive pothole in the road on the path. So they went back together. They actually made a call to the local council and realized that it was actually about changing the environment and not only supporting this man to change the environment, this was going to have positive impacts for many different people in the local community. So where we could have quickly gone out and supported this person to receive a new wheelchair, it was actually making a bigger change in the environment. And I think this example truly encompasses the everyday way and the social model. So the everyday way really looks at interdisciplinary teams. So looking at a person's life from all angles, having incredible people within our team come in and look at the person as a whole, and also looking at their life trajectory. Our incredible habit coaches, so they have the ability to build routines and skills. They're incredibly cost effective and really support our participants to achieve more for less and have more support around them within their routines each day or week or whatever that therapy burst may look like for that participant. A social model practice is where everyone associated with participants shares the responsibility for changing the attitudes and physical environments that prevent everyday independence. And that's what I tried to really demonstrate with you all before. And our lead tool for measuring therapeutic impact. So this is a really game-changing tool with everyday independence, and I know we'll touch base on that later throughout the presentation. So meeting the goals of the NDIS. So this is something we are incredibly proud of at Everyday Independence, and really proud of our new clinical career pathways, which really is what tonight is all about. So this is the infrastructure that's here to support us to meet the goals of the NDIS. We are here and we're really striving to build a workforce by having clinical career pathways where people know the steps they need to take to progress in their career, which will then ultimately service and support our incredible participants to truly maximise their impact. It's going to support people living with a disability to be able to choose what they want to do. So you'll hear tonight a lot about choice and control, but we want to support our participants to choose what they buy with their funding. We want to support them to choose what they buy well, to be able to really get great value services, and most importantly, have life-changing outcomes across their trajectory. I'm so excited by bringing tonight's event to you. And later in the presentation, I'm really excited to introduce our panel to you so you can really connect to some of these experiences and hear what our clinical career pathways are all about. So leading the game for change. You'll see here today on our screen some incredible people at Everyday Independence that we get the absolute pleasure of working with every day, who are absolutely not only making a huge impact within Everyday Independence, but also making really big impacts in the industry and change makers. So you'll see a lot of the people here on our screens are currently presenting at exchanges, presenting at conferences. I know we will hear from Trish later today, who was at a physio conference last year and was really inspired by what she'd heard and was able to come back and really infiltrate that into the way we work at Everyday Independence. So we truly have incredible thought leaders within our organisation who are truly changing the game for people with disability and changing the way we support people within Everyday Independence to be the best clinicians they can be to really make impact within their careers. So long-term career growth and ongoing professional development. So you'll see here so many opportunities and teams that you can work to achieve within Everyday Independence. So these teams are built by the most truly incredible people within our organisation. These people are enthusiastic, they want to progress their career. And so we've really worked with these people to create 7 game-changing clinical career pathways. There's too much information on this slide for me to go through everything, but we really have heard from our employees for a number of years. I kind of know where I want to go, but I just don't know how to get there. What steps do I need to take to achieve my personal and professional goals at Everyday Independence? So this is really how we supported people to be able to see where they want to go, have these pathways mapped out with pivotal and short-term goals to be able to get where they'd like to get to. And that's really how our 7 career-changing clinical pathways were developed. So I hope I can be an example today of someone who has demonstrated being able to move through the pathways. And we have lots of people at Everyday Independence that might start down one pathway and realize that they'd like to actually look at a different pathway or take the skills they've learned and further enhance and develop and continue to grow in a different pathway. And that's incredibly important to us at Everyday Independence, that you can have the pathway and the career that you would really like to set out to achieve. So lots of co-design has gone into this and lots of collaboration, but we really now want to develop a workforce that is really fit for purpose for the future of the NDIS. So you're looking at those pathways and you know where you're going. We know what career you're going to have. We know what you need to do this, but how are you going to get there? So you'll see a very common theme that everything embedded at Everyday Independence is really embedded within the social model. The social model is honestly at the heart of what we do. Person-centered practice is at the heart of everything at Everyday Independence, and we need truly incredible people within our team to make this happen. So the way we support you is also employee-centered. There are so many supports that we can wrap around you as people at EI, and depending on what your needs are, where your career is going, or where you're at currently clinically, where you'd like to be or aspire to be, there are so many different supports we can wrap around you to achieve those goals. You'll see here today, you're really able to pick and choose from these supports and what you need at the right time in your career to make the most impact. So some people really benefit from one-to-one support. Some people really benefit from shadowing or mentoring. We also have incredible group-based supports or communities of practice as well. If that is the style that supports you as a clinician to really grow and advance where you would like to be. So I know myself, I love everyday therapy mentoring. It's a platform where I can log in, I can ask questions to a subject matter expert at Everyday Independence and have space to talk about a query or a question or an area I might want to develop in to help myself, but also get incredible impacts for my participants. So there's discipline-specific mentoring, there's admin support. You also get this incredible love and support from your hub and your hub life, where you get a small community feel within a large organization and that ability to connect locally and really connect and belong, but then be able to tap into some incredible leaders within our organization in a lot of these other platforms as well. So I think this quote here, sorry, Cherie, I went a bit quick there. I think that quote from Charlotte there really speaks to our values at Everyday Independence, that she never felt out of depth because I always had the support of my therapy mentors and team members to help me through any challenging or new situation. So you'll see here on our screen, we have the lovely Amelia. So she is such a fantastic example of someone who's really explored, discovered, and unlocked her career at Everyday Independence. So Amelia started with us as an occupational therapist. She found her passion working with children and families in the key worker space. She was running a lot of group programs for us with children and families and really enjoyed this. She then found her passion in supporting other clinicians to be able to do what she was doing really well and accelerate their careers in a therapy mentor role. And she's currently now a hub leader for us at the Western Melbourne Hub with a large team and truly supporting many clinicians to explore their careers and have incredible impact as well. So a great example of where you can go at Everyday Independence. Oh, my favorite part. I'm so excited to jump into introducing you today to our everyday change makers and our incredible star-studded panel who we'll be speaking with today to really understand more about them, the impact they're having, their careers, and the support they offer at Everyday Independence. So our first change maker here today is Trish. So Trish is a clinical education and physiotherapy lead. You'll see here today she has an incredible career journey, and we're so excited to welcome you along to our panel today, Trish.
Thanks, Bree. That's a glowing intro. Thank you.
So tell us, Trish, what was it all those years ago that attracted you to everyday independence? What weren't you experiencing in your current work elsewhere that you were really seeking at everyday independence?
Um, it's quite a while ago, Bree, but I guess I think about that in two parts in terms of what attracted me to EI in the first place, and then what's helped to make me want to stay over such a long period of time. So, as a physio, I started my journey in an acute pediatric hospital in Melbourne, went through their training program, went through and worked in child and adolescent rehabilitation with children and families, and then started working in the community at a sole early childhood provider. And I learned a lot through that journey about really what I felt made the most impact and what was the most meaningful to me, which was really when you get to have the privilege of being in people's homes, working with them in everyday situations, and really seeing the difference that is making in their lives. So when I was working in the other roles, I really felt like there wasn't as much variety in the role. You were seeing people in unnatural situations. The scope that you were doing was kind of limited. There was boundaries, and the opportunity to grow in that scenario was limited. So at Everyday Independence, I get to wear a ton of different hats, which brings me joy. I get bored easily, so it brings me joy to have that variety in my work and be able to have my hands in a lot of different pies. So I came to Everyday Independence. It was my return to work after having kids myself, and it afforded me the flexibility to be able to, you wouldn't get, which I wouldn't have got in the hospital scenario, for example, where, if it was athletics day, I'm taking the day, I'm being at athletics day with my kids, and those sorts of things that, was so special to have, especially when they're little. Now my boys are teenagers, they don't care if I'm there so much anymore. So I was able to just increase my days over time, started small, and now I'm working full time. Now that they're older, and I've been able to put more, dedication into growing my career, now that they're sort of not needing me as much. So it was really the variety and the opportunity. So, I went from working as a practitioner, working with children and families as a physio and as a key worker, to then moving into clinical mentoring. You've already sort of explained some of those pathways really nicely, I think, Bree. And for me, it was that I really loved that clinical mentoring. And now I've moved through that to be able to mentor mentors, which is great. And then oversee the clinical education that we deliver to our practitioners, which is pretty cool, as well as influencing sort of the strategic direction of the organisation from a clinical lens. So pretty lucky. You wouldn't get that opportunity in many places to move through that way. And as you say, like 7 clinical pathways, you can move through them. You can go from clinical to non-clinical. It's not a straight line from A to B. You can choose. And what I really love is that you don't, in a lot of scenarios as a clinician, you get to a certain point, and to keep going up the ladder or with that career advancement, you've got to move out of the clinical space. And you've got to say, I'm not going to be a clinician or a practitioner anymore. I'm going to be a manager of people now. And you don't have to do that here, which I can't think of anywhere else that's an option. But you get to really have a clinical leadership role, which is pretty cool. You can move between different hubs, with 40 hubs across 6 states, probably more than that now. That was last count. So loads and loads of opportunities, not to mention the supports available, which, I know we'll go into a little bit more in a tick.
It's something, Trish, I've always truly admired about you. I know lots of people have knocked on your door and said, become a team leader, go down the operational pathway, and you've continued to push the boundaries at EI for what is possible with our clinical pathways. And I think looking at you now, you're such a great example of where we can go at Everyday Independence.
Thanks, Bree. Well, you've got to follow your heart, don't you? And for some people, it's like that's their bag. But for me, I just always felt like it wasn't. And that's okay, because we can do something else now, which is cool.
So Trish, how do we support practitioners at EI to achieve their clinical potential? What are some of the things in place that can, I guess, support people to access what they need to support their growth in their clinical pathways?
Yeah, so I think again, you sort of alluded to some of these things, I think, Brie, earlier, which was great, but it's a bit of a how long have you got question because there's so much. And sometimes just rolling through it can sound pretty overwhelming to listen to in terms of how much there is. But really we do look to wrap the supports around the person first and foremost at a hub level. So you've got a consistent person who's a team leader who's there to support you with, getting the stuff that you need and getting your calendar sorted and that sort of thing. And then you've got your therapy mentor, who again is a dedicated, consistent person for you, who's there to guide you with the clinical support that you need to get up and running. So that's the most important support. And then on top of that, there's layers, as you say, that you can dip in and out of. Everyday therapy mentoring, you mentioned, where it's like phone a friend. What do I do? I'm stuck. I need another lens. Help me out here. And I've rung Alice before. I've rung Kate before, just to get that specialist kind of lens from a different perspective, which is so helpful when you're working in these situations, to have that opportunity to get another perspective. We have so many online learning and resources available to practitioners, learning modules around things that come up clinically often that we identify as areas that a lot of people want to know about. It might be about, if you're a physio, supporting chronic pain management or persistent pain, or maybe you're working with someone in the early years and they're having real issues with fussy eating. Or maybe you're prescribing equipment. There's loads of learning available in those spaces. When it comes time to figuring out, what do I want to do? And, there's all these pathways. Where do I start? You can book a session with our career coach and have a one-on-one session with Sally and just talk through your individual circumstance and what your passion would make the puzzle fit for you. You mentioned the communities of practice. I'm really passionate about these. I think they're pretty cool. We have lots of different communities of practice depending on your area of specialty. So physio one, a behaviour support one, early years one, and it's about learning alongside your peers and figuring out what you all want to learn together. And so it's a pretty powerful way to learn, looking at, what's evidence-based practice, what's coming out. Let's stay current. Let's make sure that we're providing our participants and families with a really quality service. And then you also get a PD budget. So if that's not enough and you still want to learn more and you want to do something external, you've got an individual professional development budget that you can go out and seek something that maybe is really important to you externally. So that's probably...
Wow, talk about wrapping supports around our people. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, there's loads of places that you can go, but as I say, it's that consistency of support at a hub level that I think people really, that's the first go-to. That's your little network, and that's where you can have that consistency and develop that relationship over time with that person or those people. And that's not even mentioning your team. Like, you learn so much working in a team, just alongside people, and those incidental conversations and planning together about how we're going to support this family, how we're going to support this person. You're learning all the time on the job.
And Trish, we totally understand that it can be really daunting starting a new job. There's always a degree of stress and uncertainty. This would be particularly true for any nurses and therapists that have worked in a medical setting before, or perhaps educators transitioning out of the classroom. So how do we support incoming teachers, nurses, and therapists to make that transition into the everyday way and social model?
Great question. Because I guess I experienced that transition in working from a medical model to a more social model from an allied health perspective. But it is slightly different for those other two cohorts. So what we do, we have a comprehensive induction process that really helps people to be set up for success, which is always evolving based on our feedback to just get the right fit for those groups. And you join the organisation as part of a cohort of people. So you're joining with other people who are nurses who've moved from medical, and you're learning together and supporting each other through that transition. And same with educators, you're joining with other educators who are coming out of the classroom and figuring all this out together as well. So that close network that I mentioned before, you're welcomed by that group on your in your first week. You get to see your hub, meet your teammates, and they really form the basis of that support early on. And that therapy mentor support, we really front load it because we know that people need more support early. You get access to all the information and tools that you need early so that you can then put them in place as you go through your induction. Your therapy mentor comes out with you 2 sessions. You get to watch what they're doing and then have a go with their support, and then you can off you go working with people. So the shadowing, I think, is a really great way to learn too. So those people often that you're shadowing with and are now in mentoring positions, often they've had that similar journey, you know. I know, you know, Alice, you can speak for yourself, but you've had a similar journey as a nurse moving into this space. And I know for you, Kate, you have as an educator moving into a key worker space. So, you know, I feel a little bit under, yeah, I feel like you guys will speak more to it than I could, but seeing that support that you get from somebody who's already made that transition, I think I can see how beneficial that is for those people moving into that space. So, and, you know, from the word go, you can access those organization-wide supports and feel like you're part of that community of practice as well.
Thank you so much, Trish. And everyone, please stay on. I know Trish is hanging around to be there to answer any questions at the end as well. So if you have any questions for Trish, please keep them up your sleeve and we'll get a chance to speak more with you soon.
Thanks, Bri.
Now I have the privilege and pleasure of introducing Kate. So Kate is one of our early childhood key workers and advanced therapy mentors. So welcome tonight, Kate. We're so thrilled to have you. You might be on mute, Kate.
Yep, there we go. Sorry. Thanks for your headphones, Trish. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Kate, I'm really interested to know more from you. So what was it that attracted you to join EI? And what was it about working as an early childhood key worker that particularly appealed to you?
Hello.
Hello, Kate. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I've had a couple of Zoom quit unexpectedly things, but if you can hear me, I'll go for it. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Beautiful. Okay, that was bad timing. So I was working as a kinder teacher, a little bit of primary, but mainly kinder. Kinder was my sweet spot for a long time, about 13 years on and off between having kids and things like that. And I absolutely loved it. But what I was finding the stretch was having the time to work holistically with each child and family, especially those with additional needs. So really being able to provide them the attention and support that they needed without burning myself out. Because, you know, if you have, say, a group of 26 kinder children and you have 5 with additional needs in there, then, you know, it becomes a bit out of scope to be doing that all the time. But that's the side of things that I was really loving. I'd recently completed a master's in special education. And so for me, that kind of opened up my eyes to being like, well, what's next for me? You know, how can I, you know, move that little bit further with my career? And then when these positions popped up, I thought that sounds absolutely perfect, and a real way to develop those skills a little bit further, and have that closer working relationship with children and families.
Fantastic. And for those people, Kate, that may not quite understand what a key worker does, can you explain what's involved and what a typical day might look like for you?
That's a little bit tricky because every day does look very different, especially now that I have moved further in my career at EI into the mentoring role. But what I will do is I'll talk more about what a typical key worker role looks like, because most people coming in, that is where they would start. So basically, as a key worker, what we do is when we have an initial appointment with families, we meet with them to talk about their child's journey, how they've come onto the NDIS, what their goals are, how we can support them in improving their quality of life. Are there any barriers to their inclusion at that point of time? And then we work out really what kind of support is needed. So, you know, for some children, it might be that they really need a lot of social support in their kindergarten environment. For another child, it might be some gross motor skills at the park. They really want to be able to ride their bike, but they're just not quite there yet. It can be all sorts of things. For some children, I do some lunchtime support at school. So I'm out there in the playground with them. And then when they go back into class, we spend a little bit of time looking at what worked and what didn't work at lunchtime and break that down. So it really is different for every child that you work with. And so then what happens is after we've talked about those goals with that family and worked out where the support's going to be offered, if we do need to pull in some other services, that's where we'll go, okay, well, it sounds like you could really use a burst of speech therapy here. We have a speech therapist working in our hub. They can come out and do an assessment, and then they might do 5 sessions, but then after that they might build up my capacity to continue on with those strategies and continue supporting you to continue those strategies in the home. We also have, like we've talked about, the habit coaches, which is a big asset in our key worker team. So if we do have those children that are really needing to work on their ability to navigate a playground, it might be that the habit coach works with them you know, for a burst of 10 sessions, so that we can then pick up somebody else off our wait list and start developing those goals and strategies for them.
Incredible, Kate. And I'm sure we have some educators here today. I'm really interested to know, for those that might be considering moving from an educator role to a key worker role, what were the biggest things you felt that you needed to learn to be really successful in your role?
Okay, well, it is a huge learning curve. I'm not going to deny that. But what the biggest challenge for me was getting my head around probably NDIS plans, NDIS funding and things like that. But in saying that, there is so much support. So like Trisha's really gone into detail about all the different avenues of support we have, but there's never no one to go to find out the answers for your questions. There's always people available, and there's also never a wrong answer. So there's never something that's unfixable. So I remember that being something that really kind of stressed me out at the start. Like, what if I tell them they need this much funding and it's actually this much? It's all able to be fixed, and there's always a phone number you can ring and say, help me, and things can be undone. So that was the biggest learning curve for me. And I think also one thing for our key workers that I am constantly telling them is stop doing things in your own time. So for our teachers coming in, a lot of the time their preparation and things for developing resources is done at night or on the weekends. In our role, we do not do that. So that is a real perk, and something that is a really big change, but a good change.
Thank you so much, Kate. I know we have some incredible people here today that will have some questions for you, so I really look forward to hearing them later in the presentation.
No worries. Thank you.
Now I'm going to introduce Alice. So Alice is a positive behaviour support practitioner and advanced therapy mentor. Alice joined Everyday Independence just over 2 years ago, having previously worked as a mental health and registered nurse in the medical system. So she joined us as a positive behaviour support practitioner, transitioning from a medical approach to a social model of support, and is currently based out of our Bayside hub in Victoria. So welcome, Alice.
Thanks, Rihanna. Hard act to follow with Kate and Trish, but thank you for that welcome.
So Alice, tell us what a positive behaviour support practitioner does at EI, and what was it that appealed to you at the time when you were choosing your career pathway instead of continuing to pursue, I guess, a traditional nursing career?
Yeah, it's such a big question. So as a PBS practitioner at EI, we work with participants that demonstrate what we call behaviours of concern. So those are behaviours that might be impacting on their quality of life goals. So we work with the participant, and sort of as Kate spoke about, we work with their supports and their familiar environments to try and understand the function behind the behaviour. So that's the why behind why someone might show a behaviour. Once we've established that, we might bring in our interdisciplinary team to allow the participant and the people in their environment to develop skills to reduce the need for them to show the behaviours in the first place, and so that they can actually meet those quality of life goals that we've identified. So I think understanding people and the root causes as to why they show behaviours in the first place was a big part of what attracted me to EI. As you mentioned, I sort of worked in the medical model, and I found that it was sort of a bit of a revolving door. We would, people would come in, we would provide treatment, we would send them back into the same environment that they came from, and then they would represent, and we sort of weren't getting to the root cause of what the problem was. So I really love and the social model, and it really aligns with my values that we actually get to work in the environment that someone's in and with the people around that person to actually support and sustain longer term change and actually work towards goals and values that are really important to the participant, and being able to put them at the forefront of that. As Trish sort of spoke about as well, I love that every day looks different. So every day as a PBS practitioner could be completely different. I might start my day with a participant at a day program. I then might, go in and do a community session, and that might be joint with one of our OTs or one of our speechies. And then I might end my day at the hub doing some report writing, catching up with the team, maybe seeing my team leader, catching up with Trish for some physio advice, those kind of things. So I feel like every day is different. I get so much variety and really get to work in a team to see sort of long-term change for participants, which was really nice to move into that space.
Fantastic. And Alice, can you, I guess, give us an example of a participant that you're currently working with, what you've been able to achieve in terms of positive outcomes and how that support might have looked in a medical setting?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a participant that always springs to mind when I think of sort of the different outcomes from the different settings. So I have a young participant. She's 21 now. She lives with autism spectrum disorder, OCD, and Tourette. When I engaged, she was having really challenging relationships with her supports, particularly in the day program setting. Supports were really scared to sort of engage with her because she showed some challenging behaviours that were, swearing, saying some sort of personal insults towards them, and just generally making them feel a bit uncomfortable. After our initial assessment, we identified the need for a mental health assessment. She was consistently tearful. She was presenting as very anxious. And it was something that in the PBS role we were able to advocate for, and something that she hadn't got historically because her disability was quite visible, and her mum reported that that was the first thing medical practitioners would see. And it did require sort of looking at her more comprehensively to then advocate for that support. Once she did have that mental health assessment, she was diagnosed with OCD and depression, and she was given medication to treat that. And that made a huge difference to her level of agitation, and then therefore the capacity to then build in those environmental strategies. So that was a really cool thing that we could do. And then identified a gap where we could bring our interdisciplinary team in. So we identified one of the functions or the reasons behind one of her behaviours was around frustration with not being understood when she was communicating. So she would say something 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. And as people consistently couldn't understand her, she would escalate, as we all probably would if we weren't understood. And she had seen a speech pathologist within the medical model who had worked on her articulation with her before. And it just didn't take, because when she would escalate, that articulation would sort of go out the window, and it didn't really help supports around her actually communicate with her in those moments. So we brought in one of our EI speech pathologists, and she, working in a social model, looked at alternative ways for her to communicate. So she came up with a good visual aid of like different ways she could communicate, whether it was like pointing things out, putting things into a sentence. And she really took to this well, and her family took to this really well as well. So she was getting her family to communicate things differently to her when she couldn't understand them, and then she was communicating things differently when they couldn't understand her, and that really helped with behaviours because it just reduced her anxiety, like being understood, of course. The other thing we identified was a lot of anxiety about having people really close in her personal space. She required a lot of assistance with her personal care, and so that meant that every morning started with a couple of hours of someone really close in her personal space, which did not get her day off to a good start and made transitions really difficult. So again, we brought in OT, and OT worked with her and her family on how to build as much independence as she could have with her personal care routine, and that reduced her anxiety in the morning routine and got her day off to just a much better start. And so again, immediately that transition to day program was much more successful. And then another big thing that was happening alongside of those things, I think, again, which is really cool that these things can all happen sort of cohesively because we're all working towards the same goals, was building capacity of supports to understand that function of the behaviour and understand why she was showing this behaviour, which sort of decreased that like fear response that they were having towards her. And then they spent more time with her, they communicated with her better, and that just met that core need that she was having and that she was really like crying out for, which was just having relationships and people to engage with, and that, you know, were interested in what she was interested in. And we provided them with some strategies around things that she actually liked and that diffused anxious tension. She loves looking at photos of dogs or making different animal noises, and like that would immediately diffuse things for them. So those kind of strategies meant she built stronger relationships. So that really worked well, and she's doing really well now. She's been able to start engaging with some more mainstream services. So she's been volunteering, walking dogs, she's been going to a gym, and really embraced her independence, because that was a big goal for her when she saw her older sister being independent and moving out and, you know, driving herself places, and getting herself places independently. This week, actually, she's had a huge achievement and she managed to go on the bus independently. And when I saw her, she was so excited to tell me. She's like, you're going to be so proud of me. Like, this is what I did. And it was just really exciting. So just sort of being able to see that quality of life change for her has been really special to be a part of.
What an incredible story. I can see we've all got smiles on our faces hearing that. So thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
Alice, I have one more question for you. I want to hear more about your experience of transitioning from a nursing to a positive behaviour support role, and what supports you found the most valuable to help you with this transition.
Yes. So I think, as Kate mentioned, and I know Trish mentioned it as well, the transition's always very daunting, and I'm quite a change-averse person, so I knew it was going to be daunting for me. But there was so much support from day one. I know we've all sort of said that, it's the consistent message, but I was really lucky. I had a really excellent therapy mentor who sort of guided me through the transition and into a completely new role, because PBS is very different to, I guess, working as a nurse in the medical model. So I guess I always felt like it was challenging, but that I had her backing, so I could step into more and more challenging roles. And I always felt like I sort of had that safety net of, I knew that we were going to be practicing safely, and I knew that I was always going to be able to ask the questions that I needed to ask to get my answers, and then subsequently help the participant. So there was that clinical support that was really good and helped me sort of feel more confident to push into new opportunities. And I guess that's how I landed in a therapy mentor role, and now in an advanced therapy mentor role, because I think I've always wanted to give people who are starting the same experience that I had when I started, which was feeling really supported. And then also, of course, our operational leaders, so our team leader in the hub. My team leader in the hub was amazing when I started, and still is amazing to this day. And I felt like they always just valued me as a person, rather than sort of necessarily me as a number, which is what I always felt like when I was in that really big public health system. I didn't really feel like I was valued as a person, whereas my team leader now is always, you know, the first thing she checks on is like, how are you actually doing? Not, you know, how is your work doing, but how are you doing? Which was such a lovely change. And yeah, I really valued that. And I really valued that whatever the circumstances, I could go to them and be like, look, this is what I'm struggling with right now. And there was always going to be support available.
Thanks so much, Alice. I really look forward to hearing more from you at the end when we get to open the floor to any questions.
Thanks, Brianna.
So why work in disability? I'm really hopeful that we've showcased to you through our incredible panel what a career in disability can truly look like, no matter what role you are exploring or clinical career pathway you are looking at. So we're really looking at what is fit for the future. So we know that NDIS has transformed the way that people living with a disability are acknowledged and how they are supported. So we really want to recognise the I in NDIS, the insurance model. It's a model that enables and empowers people versus a welfare model that we might be familiar with working in the past. So a model that supports people to thrive, not just survive. So thrive and survive as an employee, thrive and instead of surviving as a participant with everyday independence. So we've really spoken to our participants and to our employees, and we've heard from people that it is about cause, community, and career. And that is just something that we have in absolute bucket loads at Everyday Independence. So we're really thrilled to keep working through this with you tonight. So what's in it for you? Why join EI? What's the perks and what helps you come to work and enjoy work every day? So all of this information is captured on our website, but we've really heard from people that everyday well-being, flexibility and growth is what's truly paramount and important to people. So being able to put yourself first, have health and well-being, have a vibrant hub life, be able to go to your local hub and get that community feel and have relationships, discounts and well-being days. We have role flexibility. We have people who relocate for a sea change. So one more person from Melbourne leaves me and joins Queensland, I'll be upset, but it's also such a perk at Everyday Independence. And we have some incredible clinicians at the moment as well on purpose leave who might be just putting their career on hold while they're traveling around Australia or camping or doing something really exciting or exploring another passion area. So it is really a huge perk at Everyday Independence. And I know we've mentioned so much today about the everyday growth opportunities as well. So everyday wellbeing and inclusion. This is really at the heart of being a practitioner and giving back to others. So wellbeing and inclusion are a huge focus for us. And these are just some of the examples of what we wrap around you as an employee. So having access to our employee assistance program, if you need a space to talk or get support from anything that may be going on for you, not only at work, but in your personal life. Flexible leave options, as we've mentioned, exclusive discounts, wellbeing days. So you are entitled to a wellbeing day every 6 months at Everyday Independence, where you can literally sit on the couch and watch Netflix and chill, if that's what recharges your batteries, whatever works for you to be the best version of you. We have lots of wellbeing events in our calendar. We support lots of local causes and community push events. And of course, your local vibrant hub life as well. So more ways to earn as an everyday practitioner. So it's really about creating a package that works for you. So let's talk money. There are so many ways for employees at Everyday Independence to unlock additional earning capacity if that is a motivator for you. So we have everyday wage service delivery bonuses. You can take on more additional billing hours within your standard working week if that's something you'd like to do to really accelerate your earning potential. There's lots of different opportunities to step into team leadership or mentor roles. And I know our panel today have been great examples of people that may have started off in one role, stepped into another and really worked hard. And that's been a great way for them to enhance their salary at Everyday Independence. Generous rewards for referring new team members and getting referral bonuses. A PD budget and variety of paid and unpaid leave options, including our recharge days. And generous car options. So it's really about tailoring a package that is going to best support and motivate you to bring your best self to work. And you really have the opportunity to accelerate that career at the pace that works for you as well. So we've touched on our hub life. Here are just some incredible photos of our hubs. It's very common that you'll see a gorgeous pooch in one of our hubs. You'll see birthday parties, you'll see people using their social budgets to go out to dinner or go bowling or have a local hub Christmas party. So it's truly something that brings us all to work every day, that we get to support incredible participants, but we also get an incredible team around us as well. So I know we've mentioned it, but we are making impact nationally. We have approximately 900 employees, so more than 600 practitioners. We have incredible support teams and staff. We have 40 hubs in 6 states. We're expanding our reach currently in Queensland, Tasmania, Western Australia and New South Wales. I know we recently opened in Adelaide as well. And we're really helping participants access services sooner and providing value for money with our habit coaches. So it's something we're truly passionate and proud to be a part of. So steps along the everyday way. Believe in yourself. Make your new story one of change. Reveal your strengths and stand by your passions. Achieve your potential with the right team by your side. We then move into expanding your boundaries, pushing your edges. What is that right fit support for you to be able to achieve what you want to support? Is it being more active in everyday life? Is it feeling confident to make your own choices and really seeing where you can make small steps every day to make a difference? And then it's making your breakthrough. So being a change maker, celebrating being valued and respected in your community. And remember, every day is a new chance to go one better and change the game. So as we've mentioned today, 7 clinical pathways. So you'll see here today, it's disability practitioner. It could be a discipline specific mentor, positive behaviour support, early childhood key worker, housing and support needs assessment, assistive technology and AAC, and home modifications. So these are all incredible opportunities that you can really dig into at Everyday Independence. So join our team. You'll see up here on the screen today, different platforms that you can contact us on. So whether it's email, exploring opportunities online, or finding out more. And I know in a minute we will stop sharing this presentation and Cherie will share a Calendly link in the chat. We want to hear from you. If you'd like to hear from someone that's presented today, please let us know. We can organise for one of the panel members or myself or Cherie to give you a call and explore something further. So please reach out. No question is a silly question. And if there is, I'm sure all of us who have presented today have asked all of them. We encourage it. So we'll stop sharing the presentation now. And I'd really love to open up the floor to everyone here today if you had any questions for anyone on our panel. So be brave, you can take yourself off mute, you can pop something in the chat, but we would love to hear from you and any questions that you do have. So Cherie, did we have anything coming through our chat?
Just opening up, Bree. So I've just put the Calendly link in the chat, and there is a question from Dana. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Does the key worker have to meet certain billable hours each week? I'm a teacher, so I have limited knowledge of this. So I don't know whether you want to take that one, Kate, or if anyone else on the panel wants to specifically talk to that.
Yeah, I can do that. Sorry, I'm still learning Zoom over Teams. Yes, so we do work to billable hours. These hours, when you first start with EI, are minimal, and then as you develop your competence in the role, they increase. Basically, it usually looks like 3 to 4 participants a day. So it's not, I find it much easier to manage in terms of going home and feeling like my head's about to explode than I did with teaching, in that our sessions run for around an hour and a half usually, and then you have a half-hour break in between where you can, put all those thoughts aside, look into the next thing, have that breather, listen to your podcasts on your drive, whatever you like to do, your music, and then you get to the next participant, pull up their file, think, where are we at, and start again. So we do, but I actually really enjoy that aspect of it. And you can also have a lot of input into your own calendar, which I didn't mention before about, sorry, I'm going back onto my own thing, but the thing I've really loved about this role compared to teaching is that flexibility. Trisha touched on it, that, if you have a school assembly to get to or something, you just don't put an appointment in it at that time. So we do have certain participants' needs, that we have to meet. Someone might need after school sessions some days, some people might need early morning sessions, but you also do have your own input into when you are and aren't available.
Amazing, Kate. I feel like you've somewhat pretty much answered the next question that's popped in from an anonymous attendee, which is about flexibility. So the question is, what does role flexibility look like? Are we able to choose when we work as long as we complete our hours and tasks? So I feel like you've kind of touched on that. I don't know if Trish or Alice, you want to add anything in
Not
to
much.
reiterate that?
We sort of have a, is it 3-day minimum, Cherie? Is that still a thing in terms of part-time? I think any less than that, it's 4, is it? So I think any less, it's hard to feel like you're really part of a team and getting the reps in to really have the impact in the role. So there's that, and I guess you can do that. You could do that over 5 days, for example, and make that work for you. Probably, I think it's really important in some of these roles that we are available for some of those appointment times. Like, we're not saying that people need to start super early in the morning, but for example, that after school appointment is a really popular appointment, really throughout the ages. I don't think it's only in the early years space, but for all school age, and also for people, adults who might attend a day program and that sort of thing. So often having some availability at those times is an important part of the role. So if you're feeling like you need to do school pickup every day, every day of the week, that might be a challenge because you'll feel pulled in different directions and be difficult to really support the participants at that time. But if you wanted to do that a day a week, or I don't know, you'd have to work on the specifics of that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, Cherie. I was also going to mention our Wednesday mornings in the hub. So in terms of choosing a day off, the only day that we can't not work is the Wednesday, because that is the day we all come together and collaborate.
Perfect. We have got a flurry of questions coming through, guys. So hopefully everyone can stay on, and we'll try and get through as many of these as we possibly can. There's a question here from Nitika. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. In terms of teaching registration, Kate, how do you keep that teaching registration?
I'm assuming the NESA is the equivalent to our Victorian.
Correct, it is.
Yeah, VIT. There is a part of the VIT that talks about teaching related work. So it usually falls under that. It hasn't come up as an issue for our key workers, because it does fall under that teaching related work. And in terms of the PD, we do so much PD that you've got that area covered really well.
Thanks, Kate. There's a few more questions coming in. Kelly, mental health nurse, currently working in the acute setting. Do I just need educational assistance from your team to become a behavioural support practitioner? I think you're asking about the qualifications there, Kelly. I'm not really sure in terms of what that question is, but in terms of your qualifications, registered nurse in an acute setting is certainly something that we would be happy to receive in terms of the application. So really happy for you to perhaps reach out to me directly via that Calendly link that I've popped in the chat, and you and I can have a chat if that helps. Do people generally work from home or hub? Predominantly, we are working in the community. I don't know if one of the practitioners want to elaborate on that a little bit more.
I can take this one if you like. I haven't answered any questions yet. I think all of them. We work in the community primarily, as Cherie said, we work in family homes or schools or day programs, those kind of things. That's sort of what the social model is all about, is getting out there and being in the environment where people are, and that's where I guess they might be experiencing their challenges, or that's where their goals are set. But I guess in the PBS space, we also have a bit of report writing that we do. So often I can do that from home. Like when we're talking about work flexibility, if my dog has a vet appointment or something like that, I can schedule that so that I'm finishing my day from home and I can get her to the vet on time. And then similarly, as Kate said, you know, we've got Wednesdays in the hub, so we do spend a fair bit of time in the hub with each other, or, you know, touching base between appointments or getting consults or those kind of things. So it is a big mix of where we work in terms of the 3 different options, which I quite like. Hopefully that answers that.
Thanks so much, Alice. I really love the next question. And Trish, I'm going to ask you to answer it if that's okay. What supports are in place to support employees to be safe when doing a home visit with a vulnerable family or situations that might become unsafe? So, you know, a lot of the people joining our webinar today would not have had the experience working in community, going into people's homes. So this would be absolutely new. So is it okay if I throw over to you for this one?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a really great question, because it's a new working environment for a lot of people moving into this space. We do one of the first trainings that you undergo as a new practitioner with us involves this exact topic. So how do we stay safe in the community, and gives you some tools to enable you to do that. But even before you go out, this is something that starts from that first inquiry that comes to us, where we do a whole lot of screening before you even get to that appointment. And if any of those risks are flagged, then that is triaged through our intake team to decide what's the safest way to approach that appointment. Where's the safest place for it to be held? Who needs to be there? Do you need to go with somebody else, so there's 2 of you there, or is it just not a safe situation? So a lot of screening happens before you even head out to an appointment. And then there's lots of things that you know, we cover in more detail on that first day, that are tips and tricks on the day, you know, about being safe and keeping yourself safe, which, regardless of if there's any risks, we should all be doing anyway if we're entering someone's house. So without going into too much detail, it's definitely something that we take seriously, and that's covered quite comprehensively.
Thanks so much, Trish. Just a question here to clarify the part-time, is it 3 days or 4 days? It is 4 days, but we are open to having discussions with candidates who are looking for 3 days based on hub needs and our operational needs for that particular hub. So if you are looking at 3 days, then certainly give us a call to discuss. You can reach out to me directly if you wish. Are you able to do a 9-day fortnight at EI? Flexible working at its best. So that again would be a discussion with us through the recruitment process, and just working in with making sure that we're meeting the needs of the participants in that particular hub. So I think that's really important when we're talking about, you know, the flexibility. And I think Trish touched on it before around those really key appointment times, that type of thing. But yes, that is definitely something that we can look at. Can we work hybrid within the hub and remote? I think we've kind of covered that one off as well.
Can I just add something to that one, Cherie? That you've got all the tools, so you get given the tech that you can work anywhere. So if you happen to have an hour between appointments and it's not worth going home or not worth going to the hub, you can park at a library, a Macca's, a cafe, whatever, in the park, if you can do the glare on the screen, whatever works for you. So, you know, I'll try and park, I'm lucky I'm in Bayside, I'm near the water, so I'll try and park somewhere I can see the sea and do a bit of work if I'm between appointments. So you can make it work for you because you've got that portable tech.
Absolutely. I've got another question in here in relation to key workers' experience when allocating participants with regards to a child's profile with his strengths and challenges. Who would like to take that question?
I could do that one. Yeah, we definitely do take that into account, and also the key workers experience. For example, you know, at each hub there might be a key worker that has worked with a lot of families that might be that little bit vulnerable, that need a little bit more of that social work lens as well, and linking them in with different services. We might know that there's another one who's amazing kind of gross motor, fine motor type skills, and so, or somebody who's undertaken, we do a lot of training with our PD around Hannon, which is like a speech and communication professional development. So if there's a child with significant communication delay, that might be the person that we link them into. Or if someone's just worked with a child who's getting had a device, a communication device, then if another participant pops up, then we would probably try to link them in with them. So we definitely take that on board.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kate. We have still got a huge amount of questions popping in. So I'm just mindful of everybody's time. We will answer a few more as we're going through, but if we don't get to your questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can book into my Calendly link and I'm happy to answer any of the questions. And if I don't know the answer, I will certainly reach out to our brilliant panel here as well. If I just go back to some of the questions. Oh, Anastasia, thank you so much. Anastasia has said, thank you for such an inspiring session. So well done, panel. Really like to work at EI one day, just looking at the qualifications in terms of Cert 3 in childcare and studying. There is also another pathway, which Bree has touched on earlier, which is the habit coaches. So it might not be that you can potentially go straight into a key worker role, Anastasia, but again, feel free to book into my calendar and you and I can discuss what that looks like for your particular quals. Trong has a question for you, Kate. I've been a kinder teacher for almost 3 years. Is experience essential to become a teacher, a key worker? Sorry, I can probably answer that one. Or Kate, you popped off mute if you want to take that.
Look, I would say experience is pretty important in the role.
Yeah.
As we are going into kinders and somewhat building the capacity of a kinder teacher, it does make sense that you yourself would be experienced. There are times where you are on par with the experience of the person that you're working alongside, collaborating with, and we go often with that attitude of, look, I don't know more than you, I'm not an expert, but I've been working with this child and this family, so I may be able to offer further insight. So it's not, you don't need to have a huge wealth of 20 years of experience, but you do need to be confident in your strategies and know where to go, or have that initiative to look, really.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate. There's a number of questions in here about qualifications. As I said, I'm mindful of everybody's time. So I think if you've got a specific question about your qualifications, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm just having a quick scroll through. There is one question that I think might be beneficial for everybody who's still on the call, and I can see that we've still got quite a few people on the call. Someone has asked, what is one piece of advice you can give to new applicants? Maybe we'll just go around the panel really quickly and see what everyone's thoughts are.
I'm happy to jump in. As I think Alice and Kate have alluded to already, if you are moving from a completely different work situation and role, it is a big learning curve. So come in knowing I'm not gonna nail this straight away. I need to be in that headspace where I'm open to feeling a little uncomfortable and pushing myself and getting these new skills, because there is that period of learning, but you're not expected to know it all straight away. So I think it's more just giving yourself that patience and time and being kind to yourself, and really accessing those supports as you need.
Absolutely. One of our sayings at EI is being comfortable in the uncomfortable, and I think that just nailed it, Trish. Alice or Kate or Bree?
I can go next if you like. You sort of stole my answer a little bit, Trish. That's sort of what I was thinking as well. Leaning into the discomfort of not feeling really confident, especially if you've come from something where you had already established that baseline of, I could do this, I'm good at this, and now I'm going to throw myself into something that I have no idea about. But then I think the other thing is being really honest with the people that are interviewing you, then your team leader, then your therapy mentor. I think for me, my whole journey from the whole recruitment process all the way through to meeting my team leader and then meeting my therapy mentor, I just asked so many questions. I was really honest about what I was concerned about or what I felt like I had capacity for, and, you know, all of those kind of things. And I think that made my journey a lot easier because I was just getting that immediate answers, and I sort of wasn't going home being like, gosh, I should have asked this, but I'm so worried. And, you know, everyone just made it so much easier for me from that whole recruitment process. So yeah, ask questions and be honest.
Thanks, Alice.
I was just going to add, Sheree, exactly what everyone said, but lean in, dive in, feel uncomfortable and be curious. I think we love at Everyday Independence being curious. What else can I do? Can I try something different? Can I ask that crazy question or have this blue sky idea I want to try with my team or my hub or my participant? Nothing is silly. We always want to do what we can to achieve the most for people. And I know for me, it's about being really honest also about what I need as an employee to be set up for success. So my leader calls me every week and checks in on how many times I've gone to the gym, because that is something that's truly important to me as a person to be able to bring my best self to work. I think my leaders now know if I'm a little bit off, they'll call me and say, you've got to go to the gym tonight. That is so pivotal for me to be able to bring my best self for work. To be able to give the best impact to my team, to the habit coach team, to the people around me. So really understanding what sets you up for success and being really open about that to your leader as well.
Thanks, Bree. Kate, did you want to add anything? No?
I think everyone covered it with everything that they said.
Perfect. The only other thing that I would add would just be, you know, be confident in who you are as a candidate and let us see exactly who you are, where your passion areas are. You know, we love to try and tailor a role to you. You know, we talk all about, you know, the caseloads and what that looks like. But, you know, if you've got a real passion for children and you're an OT or a speechy or a physio on this call, then, you know, that's the conversation that you need to bring to your interview. If you're passionate about working with youth or adults, or you're happy with a lifespan caseload, you know, it's for us, it's about being able to support you and set you up for success. So, you know, I think it was Alice that said ask all the questions, but equally, you know, come with all of the insights that you have in terms of who we are as an organisation, and be able to really talk through what do you need and what are you looking for in your career, because I think that's really important for us to be able to work through that process as well. Thank you so much. I think we could probably wrap it up here. We could stay on all night, but as I said, I think probably just mindful again of our panelists' time and everybody on the call. So thank you so much. Again, hop into my Calendly link if you would like a chat with me, or you can find pretty much everyone on our panel here in LinkedIn as well, if you want to reach out to anybody directly. Bree, is there anything else that you want to say to wrap us up?
Just an absolutely massive thank you to everyone for your time tonight. We're so thrilled to have you here. Please reach out. Any of us are super happy to jump in and answer any questions. There's no silly questions, and we would just be absolutely honoured to receive your application or have you join our team. So have an amazing night, and hopefully we will see or hear from you all very soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.